Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Devil's Digest game preview for ASU season opener, where they'll be hosting Wyoming here at Mountain America Stadium on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. My name is Justin Lacertoso. Alongside myself is publisher Hode Rubino. And Hode, last year, a lot of tempered expectations for a team with a first-year head coach at ASU under Kenny Dillingham. But now this season, ASU was voted last among all Big 12 teams by the media itself, ranking it at 16th going into the season. Do you think that low expectation level should still remain going into this game?
Well, I think that when you talk about a team that is coming off back-to-back 3-win seasons, it's probably easy, I think, for the media, and especially talk about a Big 12 media that's not really that familiar with ASU, being the new kid on the block, along with 3 other former Pac-12 schools, not to really know a whole lot about the Sun Devils, and maybe it was just the low-hanging fruit pick, no pun intended, just to pick ASU 16th and last in the preseason poll. But what I do like is that Kenny Dillingham, not for 1 second, pretended like he did know about the preseason poll, pretended like he's not bringing it up with his player. I think one of the classic quotes that he had earlier in fall camp, it says, yeah, we're a team of rejects. The former teams of a lot of our transfers, didn't want them there to begin with, and we should never, think highly of ourselves because, hey, we got picked 16th and last by the Big 12 media. So I think the tempered expectations is something that, does have some kind of narrative, maybe some kind of validity to it. Not so much because of the preseason poll, but just because of the fact that you are going to have a redshirt freshman quarterback, Sam Leavitt. No surprise to see him as a starter, but ultimately you are talking about a very young player who's going to start his first full season as a starter. And there definitely is an element of the unknown when it does come to that. So I think expectations may be somewhat, should be tempered, but I definitely think that ASU could rise above the very low expectation bar that is put on them to be finishing last in the Big 12. Obviously, it all starts this week with a season opener to really prove that ASU is on that path to really defy the critics.
Yeah, Hode, a long season ahead, and the road starts now for Arizona State and Kenny Dillingham to prove those critics wrong. And it'll start with Wyoming here at Mountain America Stadium, a team that is no slouch in its own right. The Cowboys went 9-4 last year. They beat Texas Tech, which, funny enough, will be ASU's first opponent in the Big 12, and really hang their hats on defense. What do you expect out of that?
Yeah, I would say definitely that is the side of the ball that has dominated for the Cowboys last year when they did go 9-4. Very stingy unit, averaged 22 points. And even a team like Texas, during that season, they did lose the game, but they definitely made some white-knuckle moments over there in Austin. It's a defense that is very, very experienced. Really, when you look at the 2 deep, I think there's no more than 2-3 players that did not play last year, for the Cowboys. It's also a team that is very strong up front. And that's really, I think, where the matchup is going to be. And I know it's an old cliche to say that the game is always won in the trenches and whoever can run the ball and stop the run is really going to come up victorious. But I think, especially in this game, when you're talking about the ASU offense, where the strength is clearly the ground attack, now being faced against a Wyoming front seven that, again, has a lot of experience on their side and prove that they are very, very capable against the run. That's going to be a huge, huge key over there. Now, when you look at their secondary, I wouldn't say it's an extreme weak link, but I would say definitely compared to the front seven, that's not an area where the strength of the Cowboys lie. So now it's going back to a very young quarterback in Sam Leavitt. Can he really get this passing game humming against a team that, compared to others, is probably going to have one of the worst secondaries that ASU is going to face? How does that all quickly come together for the Sun Devils? That's obviously going to be a huge element. I asked Kenny Dillingham that are you the type of coach who likes to keep the playbook just barely cracked right open, not to reveal too much ahead of the games to come. And he joked that we can expect to see the swinging gate from that UCLA win last year early and often against Wyoming. But that was obviously a joke. I do expect the ASU to air out the ball quite a bit, but I really think that ultimately they do want to rely on the running game as much as possible, take the pressure off of Sam Levitt, but at the same time, you want to give Sam Levitt and the passing game some confidence going in. So I think if ASU can establish a run again against one of the more formidable run defenses are going to face this year, I think that things can really flow from there. But I'm really curious to see how the passing game does perform against Wyoming. Again, not a great opponent secondary-wise, but there's definitely are a lot of aspects of this offense that are just not yet crystal clear in terms of how effective the passing game is going to be.
Yeah, held Wyoming, a team that last year hung its hats on defense and looks to remain the same going into this season. And ASU's defense in its own right isn't a slouch either, really taking a lot of people by surprise in this fall camp, really in all areas. And Wyoming's a team offensively that is returning a lot of players, but got a new quarterback at the helm. Do you expect anything of that out of that offense in this game?
Yeah, it's an offense that only averaged 25 points. So, yes, there's a lot of returning players and some talent returning, but ultimately, you are talking about a team that only averaged 25 points a game, and you wouldn't expect them necessarily just to really have a significant improvement over last year. I know they have a new offensive coordinator. I believe his name is Jay Johnson. He came from the University of Minnesota, and this was an offense that really was a classic 3 yards in a cloud of dust last year, and maybe this year they are going to open up more in their passing game. But it's definitely a team, as I mentioned, that really relied a lot on the running game, and they're going to have a notable absence. Harrison Whaley, who did lead the Cowboys with 947 yards last year, averaged 94 yards on the ground, scored 5 touchdowns, and to not have him in the lineup, I think is going to be quite a blow. I did talk to a Wyoming insider earlier this week, and he claimed that perhaps maybe the other running backs can really step up for the task and compensate for that loss. But I still think that's a huge TBD when it comes to the Wyoming offense and the expectations for Saturday. The new quarterback, Evan Svoboda, is not a quarterback that is new to the team, but is a quarterback that played really, really sparingly. So I think almost like their version of a Sam Levitt, somebody that you just don't know how he can handle now the task of being in his first full year as a starter, as a team signal caller. I think with ASU, they have to make sure that they don't really let Wyoming perform their game plan, is play that quote unquote keep away ball, just really control the clock, which obviously with a stout running game you can do that. So if they can force the Wyoming offense into a lot of passing downs early and often in the contest, I think that's something that's really going to fall into the lap of the ASU defense. I think this ASU defense is one that maybe like Wyoming has much less question marks in their linebacker and the defensive line unit compared to the secondary. But this is definitely an ASU secondary that, even though still has some things to figure out, and we can see during the season how effectively they're able to figure it out, they're not facing a Wyoming offense that's going to test them in the air at all. So this is a defense that, much like the ASU offense, I would say, just really needs to impose its will on this Wyoming team, and I think that that's something that they are definitely going to be capable of doing.
Yeah, Wyoming, maybe not the most high-powered offense, but a non-conference opponent, and a tough one at that. And Hode, we take it back a year ago today, Southern Utah, maybe not the greatest opener for ASU. So if Kenny Dillingham and company want to keep this momentum from fall camp going into the season, seems like they're going to have to get a decisive victory here in Tempe. So what do you really expect about this to see from the Sun Devils in this matchup?
Yeah, this is a non-conference game that definitely falls into that quote-unquote no-win game. If you're going to blow out by Wyoming by 3-4 touchdowns, I don't think anybody is really going to make any sweeping conclusions or have a week one overreaction. But if you do struggle against Wyoming, just like ASU struggled against Southern Utah in that bizarre monsoon game that had a delay of over 2 hours, then maybe that's a warning sign for what's about to come in the season. So I think with ASU, they have to be really as patient as possible. I mean, sure, everybody wants to see a turnaround. Sure, everybody wants to see that statement win. But But week one is not really going to be one that, if you do win by 3-4 touchdowns, if you would be, as fortunate or as competent on that day, that you're really going to, really send a message to the Big 12 and maybe send a message to the doubters over there. Going back to my earlier point, with Sam Levitt at quarterback, I don't know if it's really going to be an explosive offense from day one, for the Sun Devils. Even though they're playing a defense that I think can probably exploit more in the air than they can on the ground, I still think that there's definitely a lot of tempered expectations, as you mentioned in the beginning of this feature. So I think ASU just really has to go ahead and play their game, but not really overreach, not exhibit any anxiousness or lack of patience. And just like Wyoming is the one that wants to be on the field as much as possible and keep the ball away from ASU, even though ASU is a clear favorite in this game. I think maybe they really should play their own style, which really is going to be just relying pretty heavily on the run game and maybe frustrate that Wyoming offense, which is trying to put as many points on the board. So I think it's going to be a pretty comfortable win for the Sun Devils, not a blowout. I'm picking ASU to win 27-13.
Well, thank you, Hode, for all of your insight. ASU season will kick off here at Mountain America Stadium on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. against Wyoming. For all the pregame, in-game, and post-game coverage, go to DevilsDigest.com. Follow Devils Digest on Twitter at Devils Digest. My name is Justin Lacertosa. That's publisher Hode Rubino. We'll see you guys on Saturday.